We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
In 5, 4.
With Russia, I wrote a book about it. Trump colluded with Russia, I wrote a book about it. Taibbi is a bad person. Trump colluded with Russia. Trump colluded with Russia. Taibbi is a bad person. I wrote a book about it. Taibbi is bad. Jeff Girth. Trump colluded with Russia. I wrote a book about it. Trump colluded with Russia. I wrote a book about it. Taibbi is a bad person. Trump colluded with Russia. Trump colluded with Russia. Taibbi is a bad person.
White rural voters, a threat to democracy at this point. Voters, a threat to democracy. 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 White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. The threat to American democracy. Voters, a threat to 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 democracy. White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? Voters, a threat to democracy. 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 White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. The threat to American democracy.
Citizens of the internet, welcome to episode 65 of the Polyticks Show. If you're joining me, thank you for doing that. And wow, it's been a pretty wild couple days, hasn't it? The top story, of course, being the attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. And I played these two parody videos I did at the opening just because I have them in my arsenal, but also it reminded me of the language that's been used around Trump. Basically, that he's a threat to democracy, that, he's a Hitler. And it's so funny to me because I had this same thought process when Obama was elected. I don't know if you remember this, if you're old enough to remember this, but when we elected Obama, or when Obama got elected, put it that way, everyone was like, he's a secret Muslim, and the Republicans like, he's a secret socialist, he's going to subvert America and all this stuff. And the whole time he was president, I mean, especially when he first got in, I was like, someone's going to take a shot at him, and he didn't really do public events. Like, Trump is out on the road doing these rallies all the time. He's a sitting duck. And, anyway, it's interesting to me that the Democratic Party now sounds like the Ann Coulters and the Rush Limbaughs of the, late 90s, early 2000s. And as I've covered before, it's because they are those people. All those people moved into the Democratic Party under Obama. While we were busy, patting ourselves on the back for having a black president, the Dick Cheney, George W. Bush war machine kept on a rolling, and in fact accelerated under Obama. And I started to notice it in 2012, which is why I ended up in the primary voting for Ron Paul. I ended up that year being a big Ron Paul supporter. And of course, he got racisted out of the campaign. And so you see these patterns, and I don't know what to believe yet with all this. There's a lot of people that say it looks staged. I don't know how you stage something like that. I also don't know what Trump's motive would be to stage something like that, because he was winning. I mean, after that debate performance, he was way up in the polls. They were calling for Joe Biden to step down. So the timing is obviously would work to their benefit. And also today, I think, well, tomorrow is the beginning of the RNC. So imagine if this guy had hit him and killed him, or, you know, hospitalized him. It's just crazy. So anyway, let's get into it. Everyone is showing this stuff and playing the clips, and I'm sure you've seen most of them. So I'm going to start with my homie, the toxic leftist, had this to say when this all went down. Where'd he go? Wrong tweet. I think I just hit home. Hold on a second. There it is. We had Hawk to a girl for a little while, and now we have the Trump assassination attempts taking all of our attention. So this guy actually, Twitter, of course, is the best source of news. When all this was going down, I was telling my friends who were calling me, like, turn off CNN and get on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, but because that's where the best news is. And this guy, anyway, had a clip. This clip actually is one of the better ones I got from Twitter, and it has really good sound on it. So you can actually hear kind of what they're saying. And let's just watch it real quick.
You see something that said, take a look at what happened.
The timing, I just want to pause for a second because I've been thinking this a lot. The timing of those shots is really good because I don't know if right as he says, this is really sad. If you want to hear something really sad, the shot goes off. It was like almost like the guy heard what he was saying. And that was a very well-timed attempt. Obviously, let's start over real quick.
You see something that said, take a look at what happened.
So watch this guy. This guy directly behind the podium in the middle. It's the video at first. I think a lot of people thought this was staged because when you watch this video, watch this guy in the black jacket and the white t-shirt that's directly behind the podium. He looks confused. And so I think when a lot of people saw this initially, they were like, this is weird. People aren't reacting. But you can hear the woman screaming in the background. And this guy, remarkably, people didn't stampede. You know, this guy kind of, they look kind of confused, like, hey, what's going on? Anyway, watch this again real quick. Just watch this guy in the back right here in the middle. Because just the people's watching the crowd reactions. It's really interesting. Some people duck, but like this guy with the hat and the jetpack, he just kind of stands there like confused. He's like, what's going on?
Moving his fair. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
You hear them say Hawkeye's here, and then this sniper walks into the room. So they've got, that must be their, you know, I think in the Twitter thread, he was saying that that's like the code name for the Secret Service response team.
You ready?
And this guy with the hat finally sits down. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna get. What's he doing? Now he's on his phone.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold that in your head, bloody.
So we got to move to the bus.
So that's another interesting thing. Trump says, let me get my shoes. Does he take his shoes off when he's doing speeches?
Watch out.
I love the lady behind the podium that has the Mean Tweets 2024 shirt. Is that a lady? People start chanting USA. So that's the footage we've all seen now. And again, I don't know whether to say, some people say, oh, it's staged. It doesn't look very staged from where I'm sitting. Let's put it that way. So a lot of people, again, leading up to this, there were a couple people who have been saying this was going to happen for a minute. And one of those people was Tucker Carlson. And I don't know exactly when this particular footage was filmed, but he's been saying this for a while. And even Alex Jones, there was a Twitter Spaces last night, which I may jump into for a minute. But Alex Jones was like, he needs to get off the campaign trail. No more rallies. He needs to go completely digital at this point. And a couple other people were arguing, no. He should stay in. He should keep doing the rallies just with heightened security. And Alex Jones is just like, no, they're gonna blow his plane up. They're desperate at this point. So, anyway, here's what Tucker Carlson had to say. And Tucker predicted this. This is this guy Mazemore. I thought I followed him, but I'm always sharing his tweets. So props to him. But check out this piece of footage right here. We'll talk about it.
They called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times. And every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. They called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses.
Now it's looping. So on this point, Snow Himbo here, he said something about this just seems fishy. Doesn't matter though. There's no way he doesn't win now. Yeah, this is the thing I think about this, man. Even if this is a staged thing, which it absolutely could be. I mean, there's just too much about like that picture with the American flag and stuff out of the fact. It's just too perfect. But then again, I mean, I'm not saying one way or the other, but my thought process on that has been, when you think about all the stuff that they've manufactured and thrown at him, like the January 6th stuff and the Russia stuff and all that, it's like, if this is manufactured, brilliant, like very good idea. I saw some posts that were like like some pro wrestling guys are like, oh, he's using these pills. Because there is a wrestling move, and Trump, I think he did stuff with the WWE. Like, he's always at the UFC. So he's adjacent to that world. But this guy was like, oh, he fell and like popped these blood caps that they use in wrestling. I don't know. Other people were shot though. So that's the thing. The shooter was killed, and a civilian was killed, and other people were injured. So that's the part where that gives me a little bit of pause on that. So on that note too, someone had this footage of this guy who apparently was on the scene and happens to be a doctor. And so he kind of tells you about, I guess he helped this one guy who had been shot. So check this out. And he's got blood all over him.
That's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, "He's been shot! He's been shot!" So I made my way over. I said,
So what he just said right there. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. I noticed even Michael Tracy actually tweeted out. He's like, those shots at first sounded like light. They didn't sound loud enough to be gunshots, and that's because the shooter was 150 yards away on a rooftop. We know that now, but when it first happened, there were a few people, and Michael Tracy, to his credit, he's one of the better journalists out there. Sometimes I get mad at him because he's like skeptical of shit that I'm not, but all the people that have been like ultra skeptical that I've doubted even a slight bit, like even Jimmy Dore or Misty, they've been right. So whenever I get into that realm, like, with what you're saying, Snow, with the thing being faked, it's like, I don't know, I wasn't there, so I can't say with any verifiable, confidence what happened. But again, everything is possible and nothing is out of the question. Anyway, back to this guy.
I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There's lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. So I got people there really helpful. I got
Was
him
there only
up
one
on the
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as I breathed for him.
One person.
I was the only one that did it.
We need to evacuate everybody.
So there's of course, a lot of the Democrats came out and said, stuff immediately following. And I noticed a lot of my lefty friends on Twitter were like, oh, of course, the Democrats come out and, show sympathy for Trump, but not like the thousands of people who are being slaughtered in Palestine. And when I thought about that, I thought, you know what? To me, that's almost like it's like a sign of guilty conscience, maybe, a guilty conscience that a lot of the stuff that these people have been saying might have led up to this. Calling Trump like this a threat to democracy that the world has never seen and all that garbage. But here's what Obama had to say, because we always need to hear what Obama has to say, right? He said, there's absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy, although we don't yet know exactly what happened. We should all be relieved that the former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. Well, this guy's like, although we don't know. Are you serious? We don't know what happened. I love the comments. Whenever one of these shit libs posts, the comments are always fantastic on these tweets. Tell that to Gaddafi. Nobel Peace Prize winner Obama dropped Ben Norton. Ben Norton has been a little cringy sometimes, but he still does good work, and I'll give him credit for this. Obama dropped 26,171 bombs in 2016, while in the U.S. military ran 804 military bases, and U.S. special ops were in 138 countries. U.S. democracy is built on political violence, from genocide against indigenous nations to today. Very salient and solid point, Ben. And then there was also this, which I don't really give too much credence to, but a lot of people were pointing this out, that leading up to the shooting, Biden had been saying stuff about how it's time to put a bullseye on Trump. And that's according to Jackson Hinkle, whatever you think about him. I love this. See, this is the kind of stuff right here that that makes me understand why people hate Trump supporters, because this is absolutely the most cringe, ridiculous garbage. Yeah, like, oh yes, Christ, yes, God saved me. No, you got lucky if that wasn't a pre-planned op. Everything's a fucking op these days. That's the problem. That's why I don't fault any of my friends who are like, this looks a little staged. I'm like, yeah, listen, there's stuff that I thought was legit for years that I'm finding out now. What? You didn't question that, Dustin? You need to think twice, buddy. And so yeah, I'm with you on that. So then there was a lot of talk about a security lapse. You know, a lot of the conservatives have rightly been criticizing the decision, first of all, to withhold Secret Service from candidates like RFK Jr., who, I mean, if anyone deserves it, it's him, given his family history. But I think this is also an interesting moment because someone like Trump, you know, with the partisan people, the ultra partisan types in the Democratic Party, just of course hate him. But I think they might be able to, even though I'm sure they hate RFK too, they might be able to sympathize a little more with RFK. And seeing RFK kind of bridging this gap now is interesting, because I think of all the Democratic candidates, I mean, he tried to be a Democratic candidate, let's be honest. He probably has the most, you know, familiarity with the situation, and has been the most sympathetic to Trump in the wake of this. He's been out doing press, you know, I mean, say what you want about the guy. He might be an opportunist a little bit, but a little bit, okay, a lot. So here's, this is from Brianna Joy Gray, and I saw this footage on a couple of different people's feed, but she makes the case here that, you know, a lot of people are making, which is, if this wasn't some kind of staged op, it was a lapse in security, because how did that guy get up on the roof? So this is footage from the BBC of them interviewing this guy.
A lot of people very, very frightened.
Who
Greg
watched
was,
the shooter.
Someone who was, you weren't inside the event,
nope,
but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw. And
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us at the Sprinkles Farming Greenhouse here. We had a party. And we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the fields, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally, right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, you know. But we noticed the guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, you know, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling
Yep.
the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at them for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Now, I saw Ian Carroll saying, he's like, this is suspicious, because if this guy really saw all this, why didn't he film it? He listened to the guy. He said they were partying, and I think he's got a beer in his hand. So they're probably a little buzzed and maybe weren't thinking about it. We're a little shocked. I'm not making excuses for him. That's another thing that's a little interesting. It's like, why didn't you get some film of that, buddy? People did get film of it, though. I think it was TMZ who released, someone had footage of the guy like laying on the rooftop when he took the bullet. And I believe it's on TMZ. I didn't go and grab the footage, but I was watching some live streamers last night who were going deep into the weeds. And this is what I love about social media is, they were playing like news clips and going through Twitter as it was happening. And they had the identity of the shooter, while the people in like CNN and stuff are like, we still don't know the identity of the shooter yet, and all this stuff. So the new media ecosystem is really great for stuff like this. The other side of it is a lot of stuff gets kind of ran with before there's evidence behind it. So you have to be careful too. Obviously, disinformation can spread. So there is that side of it as well. But overall, I think that the Twitter ecosystem is absolutely the best place for news. And this is crazy. So when I heard about this, I was like cleaning my kitchen or something, and I had YouTube on, and there's not a lot to watch. So I was flipping through, and they had a live stream of this event, of the President Trump rally. And I went, oh, I'll listen to this for a minute. Maybe he's going to say something funny or something. So I turned it on, and literally like 3 minutes after I turned it on, the announcer goes, okay, there were shots fired at this event. We're going to find out what's going on. And as soon as I heard that, I shut my TV off and got on Twitter. And that's where I was for the next couple hours, because that's where all the best, most up-to-date news is. So check this out. The media response to this in the initial wave was very interesting, because they did what they do and used Orwellian language to describe it. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president crowd. The English in that confused me already. Secret Service after loud noises startles former president crowd. That's not very well written headline to begin with. But here's another one that Matt Orfala pointed out. And this one's even better. Don't worry, everyone. Trump was just interrupted by Secret Service. Trump's speech interrupted by Secret Service. And I think someone in the comments was like, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Lit Mormon. This can't be real, can it? Orfala, it's real. So that's the initial response of the corporate press. And of course, like I said, those are the initial responses. So you can't fault them too much for being a little inaccurate in those beginning days. But going back to what Snow Himbo was talking about, and what we were talking about earlier with this being a false flag or a kind of staged occurrence, I like what Nico House here had to say from RBN. And he said, I'll tell you right now, this isn't a false flag. Trump didn't need a false flag or any help after the week Biden has had. He was already ahead before the debates. He's been blowing him away in the polls. The only ones this would help is the Democrats if the attempt was successful. If you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago before the debate and the press conference blunders by Biden, I'd probably tend to agree it was a false flag too. But like I said, Trump doesn't and didn't need the help, and Biden's friends have tried everything to take him out up to this. He sounds like Tucker Carlson. So again, very interesting scenario, it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold. And on the page, staying on the page with Nico and Tucker Carlson, just, on the assumption that, this was completely legit attempt at Trump's life. Here is, okay, let me back up a little bit. When it comes to Trump, this is something that I have realized, and honestly, it goes for anyone really in today's media climate. You have to go direct to the source, or you're not going to get the full picture of what's going on. So, everything comes through the filter of the media when it comes to Trump. And I've noticed that unless I go listen to the things he says directly, I get a very distorted picture of what he's actually saying. And he did an interview with Tim Pool that I've played this clip before from. But to me, this right here is why he is absolutely not allowed to get back in there, and why they will go to this extreme of a length to keep him out. And let me just also say, I forgot what I was going to say. The kind of like anti-war thing is where I think Trump has the biggest problem, because there's so much distortion around it. And even people on the left don't buy it, because of his previous administration, right? He hired people like John Bolton. He hired people like Mike Pompeo when he was president before. And I think there is some truth to the idea that those are the people that ended up leading him into dead ends. Like, for example, the Venezuela thing. He was on board with that. He talked about it in the State of the Union. He called Guaido the official president of Venezuela. But I don't think that he really wanted to do that. I think he was kind of led into that. And the problem with permanent Washington, and I don't know if you remember this either, but when Trump got in, there was this big kerfuffle about like, oh, it's taken him so long to staff the people because he's such an amateur and a piece of shit. And it's like, yeah, because all of those people that work in DC, the permanent Washington types, are there. And to clear all those people out and start over is a massive undertaking. And so I think that when he got in, the first time he didn't know a lot of what he was doing. And they've said this, they leaned heavily on the Republican Party because that was the apparatus that they used to get into the White House. So I believe that he was definitely misled. But let's watch this clip real quick so you have some context as to what I'm talking about. But this is from Tim Pool's interview that he did with Trump a few weeks ago. And let's talk about it here. Hold on a second. Taking a minute to look. I didn't actually, for Twitter now, I'm actually just grabbing the clips instead of ripping them to my computer. So it makes it a little bit faster for me to put the show together, but it's also a little bit clunkier than it might normally be. So check this out. This is a piece of tape that I think is very telling.
The question is, why are we in Syria? Who even knew?
Yeah.
And they lied to you, and they lied to us about the number of troops in there. And so maybe it's a bit blunt for me to say I want to see people prosecuted for the lies to the American people. But in terms of foreign policy, perhaps it's a little bit of a biased interview, but I think you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
I appreciate it.
And ending the war.
He said, let's back that up a little bit, because that's an interesting statement that himself. He's like, you're the greatest. I think that's why everyone thought it was a softball interview, because he said, listen,
I appreciate it.
And ending the wars.
What he says.
Perhaps is a little bit of a biased interview, but I think you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
I appreciate it.
And ending the war
of his lifetime.
Wars that we should not have been involved in. Now the fear is World War III.
Yeah.
What are you looking at when you enter your next term to stopping the escalation?
Well, first of all, I'm the only one that is going to stop World War III, because this man can't put two sentences together. He doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know where he is. And amazingly, it seems like...
Keep in mind, this was before the debate, too.
He's going to be running. It's a lot of people say, do you think he'll make it to the starting gate? Well, we'll see what happens. But if you look at Viktor Orban, because we don't want to see wars. I don't want to see wars. I was in no wars other than we finished.
That right there. That's the first part of it.
But if you look at Viktor Orban, because we don't want to see wars. I don't want to see wars. I was in no wars other than we finished a war with ISIS, and we completed it, 100% complete. But I don't want to see wars. I think it's so horrible, so unnecessary, so costly in terms of lives and money in that order, and destroying these countries.
You hear that? So costly in terms of lives and money in that order. He's such a terrible, people just say Trump is such a terrible person reflexively, and he's just like a money obsessed fucking dick pig. But he seems genuine about that. He said money, lives and money in that order, like lives are more important than money. But listen to what else he says.
You're destroying culture. When you look at Ukraine, that would have never happened if I were president.
You're destroying culture. I mean, look at what we did to Iraq. Look at what the British Empire has done to the Middle East. Jesus. I just watched a thing a couple weeks ago about how all the stuff in their museums is stuff that they ransacked from during the Crusades and stuff.
You look at the October 7th attack on Israel. It would have never happened.
Why I look at your policies, I see secure the borders, bring jobs
Right.
back. I look at the Democrats and many Republicans, and it's foreign war and foreign expansion.
That's right.
What is that?
I think it's just a failed mentality. It's crazy. You can
That right there. Democrats and Republicans, it's a want to expand, are expansionist. That's a failed mentality. To me, if there's any motive and behind making sure he does not get back into the White House, that is it, because there is so much money in the Ukraine slush fund. These people do not want that gravy train to end in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying that Trump won't create another gravy train of his own for someone else or whatever. I'm just trying to extrapolate potential motives for this deep-seated hatred for this guy in both parties.
can solve problems over a telephone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. I see recently they're dropping bombs all over Yemen. You don't have to do that. You can talk in such a way where they respect you and they listen to you. Viktor Orban of
Listen to
Hungary
this again.
phone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. You can solve problems over a telephone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. I see recently they're dropping bombs all over Yemen. You don't have to do that. You can talk in such a way where they respect you and they listen to you. Viktor Orban.
Anyway, that I think is very telling. So as this unfolds, I'll probably talk more about it, but I think there's plenty of people out there talking about it, and I've already spent way more time than I needed to on it, but we'll see what happens. Crazy day yesterday. And glad that the guy missed. A lot of people weren't glad that he missed. Of course, like I saw all kinds of people like, "Oh, make America aim again" and stuff like that. It's like, can you imagine if someone took a shot at Obama and conservatives were like, "Oh, it's too bad they missed." Like you'd never hear the end of it, And that's the thing about all this anti-Trump stuff that drives me the most insane is it made the most politically correct, like we got to be kind and empathetic people into completely hateful, evil, partisan hacks that just, it's, what I'm talking about. So let's talk about Eminem. Oh man, this guy, listen, he has a couple great albums. I think the Marshall Mathers LP is a classic record. Even the Eminem show is good. Like he has some good stuff back in the day. And then he got Trump deranged too. Something happened to him. I think, and I've said this before, I think what happens to these people is they get so insulated. They get so rich and insulated that they're not ever like talking to anyone normal who isn't their sycophant, who isn't like, yes, Eminem, you're the greatest of all time. Where do you want me to put this? Where would you like your dinner? That kind of stuff. And Joe Rogan spoke a little bit about this. He's like, I take commercial flights because I, want to mingle with the people. Like, I don't want to be on a private jet all the time, like out of reach from people. And I think that's smart because as you can see with Eminem here, the guy has completely lost touch with reality. So the first thing I saw with this story was this tweet that Jake's Shields put out about a new song Eminem has. And he says, pathetic. Eminem criticizes non-mask wearers on new rap track. Collaboration with Kid Cudi takes aim at people spreading COVID-19 by not wearing masks. So he actually released this song a while ago on YouTube. Once I started going into the weeds on it, I realized, wow, I've already heard this, but it's just interesting to hear, to see this guy who was so anti-authority, and you see this all the time, all of a sudden become the like, listen to the government, do what the government says. Where did I? Oh, did they get rid of this? Here it is. Okay, so check this out. So this has the lyrics for the song. This is from MJ Truth Ultra. Eminem in a new song criticizes people who don't wear masks, half-wits in offices who don't wear want to wear a mask and scoffing. That's how you end up catching the shit off of them. I just used the same basket as you shop in, and now I'm in the casket from you coughing. He then goes on to praise George Floyd and says cops are dirty and some I can't breathe propaganda. So what's
going on, man? Yeah. Bunch of half.
This because I don't want to get a copyright strike. Fuck's going on. Bunch of halfwits up in the office. Half of us walking around in a zombie apocalypse, pissed off. And anyway, you get the idea. The return of Slim Karen on the mic here. So the other thing that Eminem did recently was he went after Candace Owens and Kanye, kind of. So check this out, and I'll play Candace's response too. But here's the kind of breaking news right here. Eminem has turned into a Karen in his old age. How do you go from rapping about killing your mom to rapping about why you should wear a mask? Didn't we ridicule Juvenile for vax that thing up? In case you needed any more proof, Eminem has a handler. He dropped a track criticizing people who didn't wear masks. The rap game is filled with closeted homosexuals who are blackmailed into towing the establishment line. So Candace, she's obviously upset because he talked shit about her. So her response is that he's closet gay, which he's always joked about. But check this out. The thing I got from that tweet is Juvenile vax that thing up. Did you know about this? Watch this. I could not believe this crap. This is insane. Juvenile actually did a song it's for an app called BLK, but it's an ad. So check this out.
You finna online date chat, find a mate chat, open up BOK ass, okay yeah, profile picture looking tight chat, nice chat, got your bio reading right chat, precise chat, but before you find a date chat, you gotta wait chat, gotta go vaccinate chat, get it straight chat, girl you look good, want you vax that thing up, you's a handsome young brother, want you vax that thing up, dating real life, you need to vax that thing up, feeling freaky all night, you need to vax that thing up, girl.
So the point in showing you that is that yes, a lot of people did a lot of terrible things during the pandemic. Remember Stephen Colbert's little thing? I mean, that's just one example of the level of cringe people hit during this period of time. So Eminem specifically dissed Candace Owens in one of his songs, and I want to show you her kind of summary of it and response. Eminem and Candace Owens are beefing. Yes, it's the beef you've been waiting for.
Because there's a lot happening here. First thing I want to say is Eminem is obviously a gay man. It's very sad that Eminem cleaned out his closet but never came out of his.
I love that. He makes jokes about it quite often. So I don't know. I don't know if that's an attack that really works either. So what if he is? Is there something wrong with that, Candace?
Closet. But let's get to these lyrics. I'll read them to you. He writes or says or raps. And Candace O, I ain't mad at her. I ain't gonna throw the fact BITCH forgot she was black at her. Oh, laugh at her like them crackers she's backing after her back is turned in a cute MAGA hat with her brand new White Lives Matter shirt. Haha, nope. Or say this MAGA dirtbag in a skirt just opened the biggest can of worms on the whole planet Earth. Call her Grand Wizard. Yeah.
Okay, so hold on a second.
Dave Chappelle, who like he's just recycling.
Hold on a second.
We should pray. Can't if I answer back, ha, or Grand Dragon. Or
this is the part
say
that
this MAGA dirtbag in a skirt just opened the biggest can of worms on the whole planet Earth.
So the idea that Eminem still thinks that someone crossing him is opened the biggest can of worms on the whole planet Earth is pretty telling, because he still thinks that he has that sway that that this is the biggest can of worms on the whole. No one even knows who you are in younger generations. Eminem, you had a couple good records, but I think your cultural relevance has declined greatly.
Call her Grand Wizard, yeah, Clandis, haha, or Grand Dragon, or like the national anthem, I won't stand for the tramp. Why? But I can diss her, because my plans are to get in her pants, and I'll blow my chance if I answer back to her. Oh, but I can't diss her because his plans are to get in my pants. Ew, you disgust me. Okay, a lot going on here. I think first and foremost, I just would like to again remind people that he is in fact a struggling internally gay man. And so there's a lot going happening with Eminem, and we should pray for him.
Hold on, I need to get a sound
the-
drop of this. Hold on.
Me. Okay.
I want to get a sound
Oh, but
drop
I
of
can't
this.
diss her because
Where
his
she goes,
plans are to
"Ooh,
get
you
in
disgust
my
me."
pants. Ooh, you disgust me. Okay, a lot going on here. I think first and internally gay man, and so there's a lot happening with Eminem, and we should pray for him. On the second point, the way that we know that is because he's actually recycling things that Black women have said about me on the internet. Like he's pretending this is original, calling me Clandis. It's not.
This is kind of. It's not. This is kind of what they did with. Hold on. Who was I thinking about? I'm having a bad one. I need to drink more coffee.
Clandis. It's not.
Oh, Kendrick. So they tried to make this accusation with Kendrick that with the Drake beef, that Kendrick stole all his rhymes or all his disses from Twitter. Yeah, he sourced some of them from Twitter. That doesn't mean he stole them. It's just stuff a lot of people are talking about.
Like he's just recycling the Black women that don't like me on the internet, have a lot of names for me, one of them being Candy O. So he's like watched what they're saying, and I guess someone who was listening to him in the booth was like, yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, drop the beat. They're really, 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 really going to like that. By the way, there's a second song he also dropped. This one's called Bad One.
I just love her little side commentary.
And the lyrics are this about me. Yeah, this whole subgenre with all these corny white rappers, I'm not a fan of it. It ain't my fault, but like sock puppets, I had a hand in it. This $1,000
It ain't my fault, but like, yeah, I think a lot of it's your fault, buddy. Sorry.
In my hand is just like what Candace did when she turned her back on her own race, because I have abandoned it. Oh my.
I mean, that's actually pretty good. That's like a pretty good verse. I'm not even going to lie.
So cool. That's a tough one. That's so tough. The Black community is going to be going crazy. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Actually, I'm doing this because I want to help him go viral, because this is sad. This is very sad. I want you to feel sad for Eminem, because this is just not the way for someone's career to go down the drain. And I want us all to do our part to help make Eminem relevant again, at the very least.
Mira, MERA, make Eminem relevant again. She should make hats.
By me speaking about him, he understands that. By the way, I did TMZ earlier, and they were asking me, like, in part, though, aren't you honored that?
So, like I was saying about Eminem earlier too, how he's like, he kind of like has a little bit of an inflated sense of self. He's like, you just opened the biggest can of worms on the whole damn earth. I think Candace also has a little bit of an inflated sense of self.
Someone who is recognized as the greatest white rapper of all time is dedicating all of this time to you. And I said no, because it would have meant something if he was at his prime. As an example, Dave Chappelle, he made a really, honestly, it was kind of a hideous.
This is like such mean girl shit. I love it.
Joke about me. I didn't think the joke itself was funny, but I did appreciate the fact that
if he had come at me when he was at his prime, I might think it was cool, but he's not cool anymore.
Dave Chappelle, who is the most famous comedian in the entire world at the peak of his career, was mentioning me on stage. Like when he was very sad about George Floyd and he did this whole skit and he said some awful things about me. I did have that moment where I went, wow, Dave Chappelle knows who I am. This is not that with Eminem. He is not at the peak of his career. He's at the end of it. His career should have ended like 15 years ago, and he keeps going. And so this is not a rapper that's at the top. He's actually doing he's going through a strategy that a lot of new rappers do, where they find out who is the big rapper and they start a beef, right? He's like, oh, nobody knows who I am, so I'm just going to start a beef with Candace Owens.
Candace Owens explaining hip hop culture to us.
And he's just fading out of the American mindset entirely. So this is what he's come up with. And I want to say this, Genuinely, the pander here is pathetic. He's literally making a plea to the public. I hate white people. That's what he's saying. He's calling white people crackers.
Okay. Now, this is the part I wanted to stop on for just a second, because that's what she does. She's like a little bit of a race hustler. Like I said with the George Floyd stuff, conservatives were looking for a black voice to say, oh, this was like, he was a fentanyl addict and he deserved what he got. And that Candace was that voice. So this accusation she's making against Eminem, well, I think it's kind of true. He is pandering to like the anti-Trump people, or, you know, people that are quote unquote Democrats or on the quote unquote on the left. But she does the same thing. So she's not in a great place to criticize him for that. Yeah, he's calling out racist white people. They should be called out, you know, especially by someone with the prominence that he has. But, you know, he's clearly pandering.
He's using a slur against his own people, while at the same time, unironically, accusing me of doing what he's doing. He's like, she turned her back on her own race, as he turns his back on his race and calls them crackers. I've never used slurs to describe Black Americans because I don't have an issue with my race, but you very much have an issue with yours. And the other thing is, like, he does.
I hope that when this beef ends, they do a song together, or like Eminem features her on a track or something.
Doesn't even know what his audience is. Again, this feels very maybe could have done something in 2016 when the whole world was, you know, so anti-Trump and it was the George Floyd moment. He doesn't even understand what's happening. I mean, that conversation has broken in the Black community. That's why
She's right about that.
Trump's numbers are up. Beyond that, I've been on the Breakfast Club. I've done Joe Budden. Like, Black Americans are following this podcast. They actually like me. I went viral on a few.
She did a great piece on, I don't know if you saw her when she was on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne, talking about how the military is intertwined with Hollywood. And then they like went on Wikipedia and like, oh, these are all the movies that the military wrote, like had a hand in writing the script for. She like red pilled Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club on Hollywood's, you know, intermingling with the military industrial complex on a live podcast, and it was really good to watch.
Few of those channels on Instagram channels the other day because of my conversation with Don Lemon. They're starting to hear what I have been saying, because back in 2016, when I was saying Black Lives Matter was a fraudulent organization, people were not ready to listen to that. But then what happened was they proved that they were a fraudulent organization, and people said, yeah, no, I think Candace may have been trying to tell us that, and she was right, and maybe I need to listen to her.
Right, but Black Lives Matter, the organization being fraudulent, shouldn't take away from the purpose and the meaning of what it is. Ice-T, before we close this out, has a song called No Lives Matter. It's a great song if you've never heard it, and I've probably mentioned it before, but go look it up and listen to it. The lyrics, but the chorus goes something like, you know, don't fall for the basic shit. Racism is real, but not it. They fuck whoever can't fight back. And he says stuff like, you know, it's about money. It's really like they don't pull people out of their cars in Beverly Hills because they know they've got lawyers and they'll sue them. So, you know, this conversation has evolved quite a bit. And I want to close this segment out with just a little bit of, you know, what's the best word? Intelligence. This is Nick Cruz from Revolutionary Blackout Network. He says, Eminem roasted Candace Owens, and now the right wing is using identity politics, which is what she just said. Furious that a white guy called out a black woman he disagrees with. I told you guys both sides of the duopoly are the same. Use identity politics in order to fuel outrage for their team. And you see it with the Israel thing too. Everything's anti-Semitism. Everything's, you know, it's hurting Jewish students' feelings that there are protests against the war in the Middle East. And so Nick's right. The whole thing is hilarious. And Candace does a lot of the stuff that she's trying to call Eminem out for, despite Eminem really kind of being out of touch and a little bit cheesy at this point. Remember when he dropped that Revival album that had like every song had like a hook from like a pop star? It was like Beyonce and Pink and Rihanna and all that. And everyone's just like, what is this pop garbage? And so now he's trying to like go back to what he used to be, like what made him popular. And it seems so contrived. Like his new, and again, I like Eminem. I think some of his stuff is good, but this new attempt at like reinventing himself as the old Eminem is just kind of pathetic. It's like, dude, do something different. Like, why do you have to keep going back to, you know, the bullshit of your past? Evolve a little bit, you know? Maybe go on Candace's podcast and talk to her and have a conversation with her, Eminem, and then write a song. Anyway. So, speaking of rappers who are out of touch, this is probably one of the best conversations I have seen in recent days, political conversations. And I have to give Revolutionary Blackout Network, Rome and Nick and Jay and Nico. Nico's not in this. He was in the comments tearing it up. But Chuck D of Public Enemy, as a white boy, has been one of my heroes for years. And the reason for that is he was a militant black man when it was like scary. People were scared of Public Enemy. Like Chuck D was like Malcolm X on the mic, you know? They scared white suburban people with their message, you know, fear of a black planet and 911's a joke. All their stuff. My favorite Public Enemy hour is Music and Our Message because it has a lot of great songs, Bedlam and stuff like that. But it also has a track called Harry Allen talks about the information superhighway. And this was like before the internet. And Chuck D has a message from this guy on his voicemail talking about how the methods of distribution for music are starting to get cheaper and the production methods are starting to get cheaper. This guy called the entire situation we have now in like the mid 90s, Harry Allen. So look that up if you have a chance. But the whole point of me telling you all this is Chuck D has long been one of my heroes. So when I saw this, it really fucked me up. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is hero Max Blumenthal. And he tweets, looks like Mr. Chuck D learned to believe the hype. Don't believe the hype, of course, being a very popular Public Enemy song. Lainey Wilson, Chuck D, many more join YouTube's partnership with U.S. State Department to promote peace. It's happening now. And so here's Esha K responds to exclusive interview with rapper Chuck D. For our latest episode of Realistically, we talk about Chuck D, the State Department, and more. The State Department has a program called Global Music Ambassadors where they name American artists are global music ambassadors. I think it's supposed to say as global music ambassadors, but historically it has been used as for nefarious purposes, excuse me. So this is from July 7th. I was like, God damn it. And here's Nico. There is so much wrong with this picture. I don't even know where to begin, but the YouTube partnership to promote peace is particularly disturbing. Now, yes, it is. And again, the reason that I love Chuck D is because he spoke out against these he was uniquely militant. And what I have learned from the Bernie Sanders era is that that's what you have to be. Like I said earlier about people like Misty and Jimmy Dore, who have been sufficiently militant and skeptical of everything. Sometimes I'm like, oh, hey, come on, Misty, you're being a little too rough. No, she's usually right. And so what happened here is RBN and the guys at RBN saw this and went, what the fuck, Chuck D? Well, you're our hero. You're a guy who has consistently spoken out about the rights of the oppressed and fought for, you know, people who have been oppressed by these institutions, you know, and here you are now becoming a spokesman for them. That is hypocritical. It's very hypocritical. Also, when you're you're already set for life, like you're from Public Enemy. He did that tour a while back with Prophets of Rage, which was like the Rage Against the Machine band with Chuck D and Cypress Hill. So he's doing fine. You know, he's not, I don't know if he's a multimillionaire or whatever, but it's not like he needs to do this. And so Rome happened to see this, and one of their friends, Slank, kind of went at Chuck D. And so Rome basically set up this this conversation. Come on RBN, Chuck D, and Dab Squad Slank, who you're going to see this guy, Slank, man, what a legend. I fucking love this guy. We'll be on Friday, and we can do this face-to-face and squash it once and for all. So you can see me here in the comments already. Chuck D is one of my heroes. And guess what? The conversation happened. You probably know that, but let's talk about it. So this first clip we're going to play is JB Font kind of asking him.
Here's the thing. Hindsight is always 20/20. When you know better, you do better. So we know about what COINTELPRO did back in the day. We know about what a lot of the United States did in regards to what they've done in many different countries around the world. My question is, if you knowing what the United States has done, knowing what the United States is currently doing right now, why are we allowing ourselves to be used by the United States government to kind of be more of a whitewashing as to their image of what they're doing around the world? Because to be honest,
this is the problem too that we all had with Bernie Sanders and AOC and the squad and all of them. We elected you motherfuckers to go in and be a disruption, and here you are siding with the people we elected you to fight.
With you are known as a paragon in a rap book.
And Chuck's not elected, but he's a very prominent voice of that nature.
Black community, and people look to you for guidance right now. And so if you look at what they're doing, it's almost as if they're saying, here's Chuck D, now listen to the Biden administration. When in reality, we have a genocide that's going on. Black wealth has tanked under the Obama and Biden administration, as well as if you look at what's going on, the homelessness rate back in 2023 was actually raised by 12% under this administration.
Okay, we got all that. Respectfully, we got all that, brother. Okay, I add in something.
Because Malcolm X had talked about this. Malcolm X had spoke on this, on why they use actors, entertainers, and stuff like that. They don't want to talk to a real, like, on the ground activist. You don't want to hear what the real black people are saying on the ground. So here's an entertainer who's doing.
Now, I got to say, first of all, respect to Chuck D for engaging here and like showing up, because holy crap, like he tries to talk his way around. These guys have clear, concise points about why they're upset with what he's doing, and he talks in circles around it every time.
Good, but he should not be the voice for our community. No disrespect, Chuck D.
Right,
no
that's true.
Both of y'all are artists in your own right, but you're not a leader you shouldn't be the voice for the black community. So when they come and do these fucking photo ops and whatever, they should talk to somebody from our community, somebody that's been an activist for many years. And you know why they want? Because we don't want to talk to them. We don't want to work with them. And
so one of the things I noticed too, watching this, Chuck, when he comes on, if you notice his nameplate says rap artivist. So his whole framing around this is, I'm just an artist, man. Like, who cares if I'm working with the State Department? I'm not bombing anyone. I'm just an artist. Like, they're paying me to do arts, or I'm doing art stuff with them.
Can get nothing but used. Like, I have been used by Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Party before. They used me.
Why are we?
Oh man,
should talk to somebody from our community. Somebody used by Bernie Sanders.
So that right there, again, is why I have so much love and respect for Nick and these guys, because I was part of the Bernie Sanders, movement. And as soon as they fucking tried to sell us Biden, I was out. And these guys even more so. Like, we were used by the Bernie Sanders movement. And look at Bernie now. He's a piece of shit. He's a stock and trade Democrat out there caping for Biden.
The Democratic Party before. They used me. They didn't travel. They helped me travel all across this damn country for the Democratic Party, right? And what did I get out of the end? At the end of it, nothing. You get kicked in the ass. You get sit back home. That's it.
Rome. You have
entertainers in our face.
But Rome,
we know. Like,
Rome,
you have a good life. I'm pretty sure you have a good life.
Listen, Rome. You have an organization, but listen. You're not working for Bernie Sanders. You have an organization now. Not only do you have an organization, you have a network that's growing. So they would have to come to you on your terms. You're not working for them. I'm telling y'all, YouTube came to me. I'm already doing my thing. And it ain't even I got people that ain't based on money, because ain't nobody got no receipts, because they ain't paying nobody no money. So my thing was basically in this day and time to be able to say, How many people can you tell?
One of the, like, sorry to keep interrupting, but just watch Slank and Jay's face when Chuck talks. It's so beautiful.
To organize and create their own organization. And when I go around the world, and you know this, Slank, if you work with the Nation of Islam, what they tell you? Wherever you go in the world, you must obey the law wherever you go. Did they tell you that?
Yeah, I've heard it.
That's a rule and thumb. I travel more places around the world, the Nation of Islam, than I travel under promoters, the circuit, and they stay away. But at the end of the day, you got to report to some.
Also, Nation of Islam killed X. You know, they were infiltrated by the FBI.
Body, man. I'm serious. You ain't going around the world. You in Detroit. Go to Windsor. Rome. Who you reporting to?
I don't think he has to sign up for the State Department's program.
No. But he's not working, but if he's working.
Slank is a legend. Seriously, Slank, mad props to you, bro.
He's going to sign up with somebody. Hey, here's another thing. Somebody says, "Oh, we're not." Bro, listen.
I don't have to answer to nobody because I'm my own boss, my own CEO, and
you got to answer to somebody going to Windsor to do your business. You got to answer. Look. Here's another thing, bro. Listen. Let's hold Malcolm for a second.
So, reading the comments during this too, people are like, he keeps filibustering, and that's exactly what happens. So, let me show you this next clip. So just this is like a pretty short one, but it's Jay's face. Just watch Jay's face.
In convention and interview this wave of Republican convention, 1996. So then they say, "Oh, there's Strom Thurmond over there." Ask him some questions. I had like 3 hardcore fucking questions that I was going over and ready to drill it. So the first thing this dude does, he holds his hand out.
All right. Great clip right here.
No, I was saying, I think,
listen to
like
what
James was saying earlier, like you can use different technologies.
Slank makes a very clear point here, and listen to how Chuck D responds to it.
And I think using the technology to push a message, even if the technology is made by, Leor Cohen or whoever's running it or whatever, if you on there pushing a message that's against him, you're probably going to get banned eventually, but you can try to push that message. But when you partner with the owner of the technology, he's not looking for you to be a dissident voice. When you partner with the State Department, they're not looking to bring on somebody who's going to oppose what they have a vision for. They're bringing on somebody to basically be a face. So like, hey, look, we're bombing Palestinians over here, but right here we got Chuck D and we're smiling, we're having a good time playing guitar with Blinken and all that shit, Jelly Roll and shit. But like, that's not, I don't see, you don't have to partner with the State Department with the head of guitar with Blinken to you.
Keep on bombing lots of people.
Go meet Blinken or Leor Cohen. So like just asking like about family situations of different people on the call in regard to like trying to justify meeting with these people. The closest analogy would maybe be if somebody I knew closely became a policeman or something. And then I would stop fucking with them because I see that as a force that hurts my people. So like, I don't see how you can justify, like, I mean, maybe if you never really like had, maybe if you changed, I guess, like was the fight the power type shit, was that just, like you said on the tweet, it was one day in 1989. I only seen the video 50 times in my life. You said something like that. So was that just a fleeting day back in the 80s and you never really felt that way? Or was that just like, I don't understand. I don't see the consistency between fighting the power and then rocking with Blinken. That's all. It just don't make.
So one of the things that hit me when I saw this at first is this is the kind of stuff that needs to happen more often because this is how we've gotten to where we are. No one had, the only people that had this type of energy with the squad were people like Jimmy Dore, who were instantly slandered as a racist, white supremacist, Trumper for, calling them out. And these guys are, putting Chuck's feet to the fire. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, he's a guy who a lot of people have looked up to for being a voice of the oppressed. And now he's working with the State Department.
Makes sense to me. That's my whole thing.
I'm sorry, respectfully, his career isn't just, fight the power and whatnot, but it is a great analogy to use, since it was one of the many songs, especially back then, that Black people had. It was a call for justice. It had us on the streets. It had, it moved us. And like I said earlier, music isn't just music; it's a way of life. And you can actually get people to do things, whether that be good or bad. So I'm gonna let Chuck rebuttal to Slank. Here you go. You can have the floor.
Rome. So if you watch the whole thing, and you should, Rome eventually has to come in and start moderating, because people will say stuff like Slank or Jay will make a point and Chuck will start talking over them. So eventually it gets to the point where Rome is like, look, I'm going to start muting everyone and let these people talk and then give you the floor. And he did a fantastic job moderating this.
Chuck,
do y'all know the first fight to power?
Can you repeat that?
Do y'all know the first fight to power?
What is it?
That his response to that question is, do you know the verse to fight the power?
Y'all don't know?
Nope.
So you lying in my fight to power with your generation. The first fight to power was written in 1975 by the Isley brothers. And they was talking about the particular context of the time in 1975 in the United States, basically, in their turmoil. But it was actually a step up for Black people, but we was at the bottom of the.
So the argument he's trying to make here basically is that, hey, that song was about a certain time and a place, and now things have changed. And he's 65 years old. So, and that kind of comes through in the way he responds. He's a guy who's, in the last leg of his life, and he's done well for himself. And he deserves respect. I mean, he's one of the greatest rappers of all time, in my opinion. But let's keep going.
The barrel. 1989 was 14 years later, and Spike was talking about he needed a theme for the unrest in Brooklyn, New York, because neighborhoods were on top of each other. And one neighborhood was getting treated well, and the other neighborhood being treated like shit. So Spike needed a theme. And so the theme covered that movie to the point where Giancarlo Esposito looks on the wall and says, yo, man, how come there ain't no Black people on the wall? So Fight the Power was a song that said, you know what? You can't be here and us not be considered equal. And in our neighborhood, we can't have our shit too. That's the theme of Fight the Power, because you are being kept away in the place that you live to having the equal rights or even ownership of where you live. I could go bar by bar.
Sounds kind of like what's happening in the Middle East, doesn't it?
Bar and tell you what it is. But it ain't just a thing where you saw a video of people pumping their fists in the air and sing the chorus. There's a lot of words up in that particular song. I could break every single song down. So yeah, that's the story of our lives. Yeah, it's one day doing the video and maybe a month doing the song. But I've written 500 songs, and every single one of those songs have resonated. Now, if you're not a fan of PE, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, Fight the Power, and they did a 911's a joke. And y'all were kids when it came out, so that's going to strike you.
So now he's kind of like, yeah, you guys just don't get it. Back in that day, it was this way, and, things are different now. Your generation's got a different fight.
But I've done 500 dissertations, specifically and detailed, every note, every word, every bar, talking about the existence that I wrote Fear of a Black Planet on Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's color confrontation theory and the ISIS papers in 1990, a dissertation. But if you don't know and can't break it down, then it's
Chuck, that's why they're calling you out. That's why they're calling you out, because the stuff you're doing now is counter to the message that you have always preached.
It's a thing that just got songs on it. So that answers that one day thing. It's been the story of my life. If you don't go into the detail of what every word means, well, I've written books that explain every word, but if you don't have the books, you can't fill my words up with something that you saw online in the headline without saying, the dude has written 15 books, he's done 10,000 interviews and 500 songs. And right there is a detail. It's almost like today, people go online and scroll, shit, go to the library and go to microfilm, because that's the real detailed hard ass work. But also at the same time,
we have the internet, Chuck. Why would we go to the library and use microfilm?
Practicality. People ain't gonna be checking that detail.
So this right here was kind of the peak of the debate. And let's just listen to this piece here.
It's a great chance to have him, but I want to get Slank back in here. If you had a follow-up question, if you wanted to have him follow up on what you had said before.
Yeah. Slank too, man, he has so much composure. He doesn't, his emotion, I love, he's so controlled. He's so flat. Like he's got like a poker face. So, you know, he does express a little bit of disappointment when Chuck's talking sometimes, but I just love the way he handles all of this. He was absolutely perfect.
I know that was a lot to take in. So, you know, if you want to go with your old question, you got a new question, what's on your mind? What's going on?
No, I just say I wasn't trying to like reduce the whole career to one song, Fight the Power. Like I listened to many other songs. Like Can't Trust is one of my favorite songs. You know what I'm saying? And on there you talk about like how basically, even in the video too, like the analogy of like the slavery to like the modern factory, and just how like a lot of the, like you had a line on there about how the Holocaust, you're talking about the one that's still going on. You know what I'm saying? And like the Black Holocaust is how I took that. So like I feel like right now in 2024, not only is there a Black Holocaust, but like Palestinians are being holocausted by Blinken, the U.S. State Department, Biden, Netanyahu, all them. So like I don't see why this moment would be a good moment, especially when you say governments are going to be falling soon anyway, to align yourself with Babylon that's fallen. Like why would you now go and partner? I still don't get it. It don't make sense to me, man.
He says it don't make sense to me at least 5 times in this.
I told you in the beginning, man. It's art, hip hop, rap, music, and culture. I don't even believe in things that other people believe in. I hold it right there. That's what I protect. They could call it partnership. They call whatever. I already am an ambassador. Already am a god. You know what I'm saying? They're not used to a black man calling himself God.
So again, he's totally missing the point. I love the chat feed for this cast that they did is so good too, because people are like, what the hell? He's I'm a god now.
It's like the nerve of this nigga sitting down with these people. I ain't never fucking went like that. You sit down, you could be across the table from me. If we're gonna go, we're gonna go. But that's not going to change my stance. And I didn't come into this with any political stance, although the optics would be what they are. I came here and saying, whatever happens to this artist needing work, what made me animated on this is I saw people jump on D1. And D1 is, to me, he's a noble brother, man. I've known him ever since he was a young artist. He does his best. And we talked about doing your best. He does his best. And that's what you want. That's what you want out of your children. That's what you want out of your community.
He's just like rambling all over the place. I don't know who D1 is. I don't know what that contact is.
That's what you want out of your neighborhood. You send your child away. You want a teacher or a school system to do their
in the comments, people are like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Best. And you want them to be accountable. You want them to be responsible. And we don't have we live in
again, accountable, responsible. That's what's going on here, man. You don't see this? I don't know. He doesn't sound like he's that dumb. Like I think he's obviously playing a little dumb to what the point that they're trying to get across.
The country that people got to wait till they 50 to buy their first crib. If they could do that. We living in a place right now and nobody answering. Like the biggest beef 40 and over. Hey, fuck this beef in the streets. Fuck the war over there. Yo, man, diabetes, man. I lost 8 friends of diabetes in the last 3 years. Y'all young and y'all starting to see people with the diabetes, cancer, you know.
Where did that come from?
High blood pressure. Every time y'all look, and it might not affect you, you follow sports, right? I mean, you don't follow sports. Nobody. Well, the rest of the country does, because we let that ball slip away. And
again, what does this have to do with anything?
Whether you like it or not, you're living in the United States of sports. That's what it is.
So you got to play for the red team or the blue team, guys. One or the other. It's sports.
Still sports all damn day like video games. And the point I was saying that, you know, people, like, for example, like the Olympics, they fight for that to be kind of like apolitical so they can protect its money. Every school got a sports program. Y'all grew up and saw basketball players in your school, right? How were they treated? How were they treated? How was the biggest basketball and football player in your high school treated?
Mr. Chuck, I'm going to have to push back.
This is like the peak right here. Jay, I love you, man. This is amazing.
For a second.
Please.
Everything in this life is political. Nothing is apolitical. The water you drink is political. The buildings that you live in are political. Everything has politics into it. So therefore, even the artistry and how things like how your
James, can I ask you a question? I know, I'll ask you a question.
You have been filibustering this entire time, and I'm sorry, but
whatever that means.
Whatever that means, you're just talking in circles.
Filibustering means. I go to my phone.
You've been talking on and on and on for a long time, and the thing is that people haven't gotten a chance to really rebuttal because you have been going on and on.
James, you asked me to come and be part of this. Of course, I'm going to filibuster if you're asking me to be part of your program. Most people run from you guys. I'm here, bro. I'm here. Even the argument.
And that I will give him credit for. Like, at least he's engaging. It's rare, especially a person at his level. He doesn't have to. He's Chuck D. He's a well-known, famous guy, well-established. He doesn't have to do this. So I do respect him for engaging here and trying to at least trying to listen, but maybe not listening quite as well as he should have.
With your girl, bro, is political. You argue your girl about whatever, right?
I believe James is gay. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that he does not have a girl.
Is that political or emotional? It's all the same thing. So we could say, yeah, everything's political. But what where's the levels? Where's the the ones to the tens? That's all I'm saying.
And that again, it's like the out of touch thing, like I was saying with Eminem. The reason that these people get this way is because they're surrounded by. Listen to Chuck D. I'm a god. But they don't want to hear someone call himself a god. Yeah, dude, you're so surrounded by these sycophants that you when people come at you with real talk, you don't know how to respond. Because you're not used to being challenged.
Well, go ahead, James. I respect what you're saying.
Okay. All right. Now, my thing is that when you say it's
you look tight. You look a little tight. Yeah, I mean, just let it out.
Well, I had dialysis earlier, so yeah, I am a little bit. But my thing is that when it comes to being apolitical and thinking that things have to be apolitical within the system, that's how they get you to not think about how different things affect you in this life and how it's connected to the government. For instance, and I'm sorry, and I'm gonna put it down, the way I see it. You were used by the Biden administration and Anthony Blinken. That's how it was. That's how we see it. And the thing is,
and you're about to see a lot of people use.
Hang on. People are looking at you and seeing a genocide going on right now because they call him Butcher Blinken, by the way. And now they're saying, well, wait a minute. If Chuck D is partnering with him, then how does he feel about the Palestinian people that's being erased right now from history right now in Gaza? And so this is one of the reasons why I think it's such an important conversation to have. And the thing is that everything is political. And so
a lot of what they're talking about too, people may or may not know this. Leor Cohen, who used to run, I think, UMG, runs YouTube now. And that's who Chuck D is working for.
When it comes down to who we stand with, that is also an extremely important thing to regard. And so I understand that you want to take it into the direction of art, but art has been political for time immemorial. And so
Rome's got Chuck D muted and he's like trying to talk over Jay right now.
How would you respond to my rebuttal by saying that I feel like you are being used by the Biden administration and Antony Blinken.
That would be a case if I would.
Keep on bombing lots of people.
That's it. You could attach anything to anything. I mean, 2016, the Trump administration launched 100,000 bots into the social media store.
There it is. There it is. Oh, Trump administration launched bots, so it's cool to support genocide, you know.
And the bots, what they do is they metastasize and they basically farm out and attach themselves to agenda. So if I came out and did a book anti-Trump, they'll equate to say anti-Trump means, yo, fuck Palestine. That's not the fucking deal.
No one thinks that. No one thinks anti-Trump is also fuck Palestine.
It's like, yo, man, I've been saying free Palestine forever. It's like, okay, I'm gonna say it every day.
Why
It's almost
these guys are calling you out, Chuck. That is why we are here, and Jay and Slank and Rome are putting the screws to you, my brother.
Like I went to this event in Atlanta way back in the day, right? And they had this football player who passed away since, Derek Thomas. So I was there with my girl and this dude who just was like a groupie all the time.
So now he's telling one of his celebrity stories.
So we ain't never met each other. So he keeps going like, yo, Derek, Chuck D here, Chuck D here, yo, Chuck D here. And I'm like, yo, he's a Chuck D here. Eventually, Derek Thomas says, yo, man, leave me the fuck alone. I see him. I said, what's up? Fuck out of here.
In this next clip,
That's
Rome makes a really great point. So listen to this one.
With Putin and standing next to him, knowing that he's an anti-communist. He's anti-communist to his core, right? And if you see me in a picture with Putin, you know, or I deal some type of deals with him, as a black activist, as a communist, you're gonna be looking at me like, nigga, what the fuck is you doing? You know?
So he's basically saying, he's trying to like explain to Chuck why they're here. Like, hey, look, I'm a communist. If Putin is anti-communist, if people in the communist community saw me hanging out with Putin, they would rightfully be angry at me because that's against my values that I've claimed to stand for, which is the same thing you're doing with Blinken in the State Department. You've spent your whole life saying free Palestine, and now you're working with the people who are killing them.
So this is what we are on right now. It's kind of like the polar opposite.
Like,
sitting here taking a picture. We have Chuck D with all the activist work that he have done, standing next to Blanton, standing next to this fucking this war criminal, and what it doesn't paint a great picture. It really don't. It don't paint a good picture. So it's just like me standing next to Putin or standing next to any other anti-communist leader or standing next to a fucking, like, let's say me and Candace Owens did some shit together, knowing that she's anti-black woman, right?
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think Candace Owens is a little misled on a couple subjects, specifically the George Floyd thing, because that's what launched her to prominence, because they, you know, like I've said, they wanted a black person to side with conservative viewpoint on that he was on fentanyl, so it's cool to choke him out in the street. But I think Candace Owens, I don't think she's anti-black. I think she is definitely she's been run through the propaganda mill too, because she says stuff that's outside of the mainstream that they don't want people to hear. So they smear anyone who says stuff like that.
Can I say this? I done take a million pictures, dog, brother. I just took a million pictures. You see a white girl or two white girls face to face with me taking the picture.
Look at Slank.
That's out there, right? What do you think the average sister said? Damn, you got these white pictures with them, right? Oh, y'all say, oh, what the fuck, man? That ain't political. The average person's gonna fucking be like hit while they hit. They're like, yo, man, what the fuck is he doing? We have to grow out of that, man. And then one day, I'm here for this. That's here for that.
I think it's more than
Slank says this is more than pictures. Also, I love this. You need to grow up. That's what they always say. It can't be perfect. No, you need to fucking grow up, because you've been saying this for 30 years. Every time we get close to change, like, no, you guys, come on, you got to grow up, got to be adults. We got to kowtow to the Republicans, or we're not going to win, until eventually the Democrats became the Republicans.
Million pictures, dog.
He's being the ambassador too.
They naming me ambassador because they recognize what I'm already doing. I'm like, oh,
so the U.S. State Department is naming you as a rep.
Let me get you in here, Slank. Go ahead.
I'm saying taking a picture is different than being an ambassador for a nation that's doing a genocide, and I don't understand how the correlation here.
You want me to talk? I mean, you know what? I've been through 5 passports. I wanted to be able to get 3. Never could get more than
What? I have 5 passports. That's his response to that.
1. I've been to 120. I'm an artist like very few others. You know what I'm saying? And every single artist that traveled the world over the last 25 and 30 years and 35 years will vouch for me.
So this last clip, well, almost last. This is basically in this clip right here. Rome makes the point that, so let me back up a little bit. Chuck D kind of accuses these guys, the younger generation, for the state of hip hop, right? Because when Chuck D was a rapper, it was about intelligence and don't do drugs, be a good member of society. It's kind of come back to that if you listen to guys like Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole. But he tries to blame these guys and the younger generations for hip hop kind of being degraded into like drugs and hookers and money and drug dealing and all the stuff that is it. And listen to how they respond, because it's
the State Department. All these people look embarrassed. They can't stop them. But you know what? If you say nothing, you get what you guys grew up on, and what you guys grew up on as teenagers and people in your 20s. Don't front your best friends, your girls that you got with, your cousins, people that are younger than you. They done grew up with music that was on y'all's watch that got out of your control. Now you could be mad, but it's the truth. Go to Detroit.
On y'all's watch. So he's saying you guys are responsible for the degradation of this culture, basically.
And go up with your folks and see what they listen to, dancing to. And you got to almost like say, you know what? I'm mad as fuck, but I'm going to look the other way on this because I'll figure out a language. Back in the day, we used to be mad and understood that COINTELPRO during R&B, Reagan and Bush, was like drugs and guns. Drugs and guns. The first place I ever saw a store with plexiglass windows was Detroit in 1974 with my peoples up there. Then I go to New York, all of a sudden, wow. All of a sudden in my neighborhood in Roosevelt, Long Island, we saw an influx in 77. Remember the exact year, 77. You couldn't find a gun in Roosevelt before 76. Guns, drugs, out of nowhere. So the first initial thing is like, fuck drugs. There was a whole bunch of reasons we had. Whole bunch of reasons I had. However, you couldn't go to.
If you don't follow Chuck D's career at all, too, he's notoriously been like straight edge. He doesn't drink or smoke or anything. He's not a drug user. He doesn't even drink alcohol or smoke pot.
Drugged in and be like, yo, man, y'all know y'all fucking up doing the wrong thing, man. Fuck y'all, man. We about to. No, you had to develop a language that said, you know what y'all doing is fucked up. But you better develop that language. So everywhere you go on the planet Earth, you have to develop a language and evolve into wherever you go. Doesn't mean you a pussy, but you got to stand up and say, this is what we are, and we ain't that. And I ain't going to have you attach what you want to attach to me. And that's the thing about it. That's what I'm saying, Slanky.
So that's a little disingenuous and kind of like, I don't know. It's not a good look on him, because he's kind of like, look, you guys, it's your fault that hip hop is gross now. And that's his like kind of response to them calling him out for, not living his values.
I was saying, don't be attaching that shit to me. And people you grew up around and say, man, don't come with me with that bullshit. You're like, but I feel that you're doing this because they're like, fuck out of here with that bullshit. This is
no one feels anything, man. We got receipts.
What I'm doing over here. And that's what I was trying to say. Now, you know what? The optics didn't go along with all what I said. I said that day, it's never a good look when you have government in control of art and culture. It's never a good look with any government to control the culture and the arts. And I said that day.
Hold on.
Not going to come out.
I got to mute you there because they have done it. And we have actually.
This is absolutely beautiful. Rome's point here. I will shut up and let him talk.
Proof. We have evidence that the CIA and the State Department have put guns, drugs, in our neighborhoods. They have made this a way of life, a way of living. They threw a coup on hip hop. This is why back in the days, even LL Cool J, or you had a whole bunch of anti-drug rappers. It was anti-drug rappers. And then you get into the 90s, and that's when the rappers who came up, who came up during the crack era, they had to come up. They had to make it some type of way. So they was the drug dealers. So now we have drug users that's making, that's the head of hip hop right now. Everybody popping pills. But we know the State Department put a CIA coup de grace on hip hop to not only target black bodies, but to fill their prisons. We have proof of this, of them telling groups coming with to groups like NWA and telling them to make their music more violent, so they can have more people out here in the streets killing themselves, selling drugs, selling their ass, whatever it may be. So this is what we are saying. If you are working or connected with these,
if you've never heard Killer Mike's track Ronald Reagan, I highly recommend that because he covers all of what Rome's talking about.
People in any type of way, like how does that? It's like, you can't blame the kids for something that the parents have done. And you are a legend of hip hop. You are a legend of hip hop. You are one of the pioneers. I give you all praise for that. But music isn't just messed up because of the young guys. It's because of the older guys didn't gatekeep. Y'all didn't gatekeep enough, if you ask me. We let a lot of people into our culture, let a lot of people walk and talk, and we made everything cool, right? We didn't gatekeep, and now they successfully threw a coup, not only on our artists, but on hip hop in general.
He's right. And I didn't really keep Chuck's meandering response to that. Let's go to the comments for a second. We got Bryson in the mix. He says, people would rather not talk because they don't like to get in political. I cannot afford supply shortages and high mortgages. It's politics. All of this is literal. Yeah. Again, there's a reason they don't want us talking about this stuff, and the reason that censorship's at an all-time high. And Donna says, Chuck D is trying to stay relevant and has a thirst for prominence and people with power, asking him to participate in policy. Yeah, he's talking his way around it. He's trying to, but these guys are coming with facts. Both Slank and Jay. Wow, I was so impressed with this because Chuck D is a person who I have a ton of respect for, and I don't know if I could have gone as hard as they went on him. And anyway, this is the last clip, and Slank kind of just makes his point one more time in vain.
Chuck talk.
So yeah, no, I know earlier, Chuck, you had said like they weren't paying you nothing, so it's just more like a volunteer thing or like for free. But I don't even know if that makes it better or worse, because it's like they still like we've been saying, it feels like they're using you. But I know you mentioned D1, and I know like he's not just doing it for free because they're sending him to Zimbabwe right now. You know what I'm saying? They're paying for him to go places. So when they send these artists over to African countries and invoke the jazz ambassadors of the 60s that was used to infiltrate African countries and, kill Lumumba and things like that, like how is that a positive step for the culture to be sending, to have a young black artist represent the United States and be told to stay apolitical and spread democracy and U.S. culture to an African country that the U.S. is currently sanctioning?
Democracy being two hand-picked candidates you get to choose between.
Like that's real political. Even if you try to make it look apolitical, that's political as it gets. And it's on the wrong side of the politics.
Yep.
As far as black people in the U.S. and black people on the continent. That was just my question about the D1. Like, how do you see that as a positive? You know what I'm saying?
You got to trust artists that have good intentions. You got to look beyond all that shit that.
Listen, it doesn't. He just made the point, Chuck. It doesn't matter if they have good intentions; they're being used, just like and he even gave you an example.
Got them there, and look at who they are. And artists do have to make a living. And my involvement was saying, well, if you,
and that's it right there, make a living. That's where they get you as an artist, because it is tough to make a living as an artist. And so it's easy for, if someone from YouTube or the State Department comes and goes, hey, yeah, we're going to send you out on all these trips and stuff and let you go, we're not going to pay you a check, but we're going to pay the bill for everything, You're
going to look into rap music and hip hop. You're not going to look at, and I won't name any names, but I was say this suggestion, if this artist went over there and talked about what they talk about, if I'd love to see somebody like Stetson Sonic go back into Africa and do great songs. Now, if somebody comes and say, oh yeah, I think Stetson Sonic is over here in the Congo and Zambia because there's some agent running around looking to, this world already been mapped out. You have to look at art.
So anyway, the rest of what he says is just more deflection. And to close this out, this is pretty much the takeaway from the interview. My biggest Jay, this bitch is on some BS. Look at his face, it's so good. So props to RBN, Jay, Slank, and Rome for holding Chuck's feet to the fire. I've long considered the guy a national treasure. I think that his work is some of the best. Like I said, he's one of my favorite rappers. This definitely took him down a couple pegs for me, but he said he's going to come back and talk to them again. So we'll see. I don't know if he'll follow through on that, but I got a couple more items to talk about today. First and foremost, I would like to talk about Jill Stein, because in the current mix of things, it's like, I don't want to vote for Trump, and I'm definitely not voting for Biden. So I think the Green Party might be a good investment to make, because at least my vote might mean something if we can get them to a percentage level where they can be a regular, party in national elections. I think it's worth the effort to do that. And Jill Stein has really been coming out hard lately. And just to show you what I mean, Johnny Graz, one of my favorite follows, says, Dark Jill Stein is my favorite Jill Stein. And so she's like, I'm not the one chipping away at Genocide Joe's support. He does that every time he opens his mouth. I'm getting votes from the majority of Americans who are already done with the two-party trap. But you know that. That's why you pay your lawyers to kick me off the ballot, right? Have fun with Boeing and Lockheed Martin. And that's in response to Jamie Harrison, who is the chair of the DNC. He says, actually, you aren't worth any more of my time, but it seems you need something to do. Just call Donald. So there it is. She's supporting Trump. That's all the Democrats have. They haven't done anything. So they're just like, Trump. Oh no, Trump. You can get a group chat going with your other besties, Vladimir and Kim. In praising Cornel West and Jill Stein, Trump said the quiet part out loud. Trump endorsed the campaigns of Cornel West and Jill Stein over the weekend, saying they're spoilers who will help him win in the fall by chipping away at Biden's support. Guess what? We don't care. We want you to lose. I hope you lose. That's the biggest thing for me. I don't really care if Trump wins, obviously. I think it will probably be a good thing if he does. And the best thing about it will be seeing the Democrats lose, which they need to do. They need to lose. So this got better. This little tiff got even better. And Jill Stein really impressing me, making me really consider voting for her. So here we go. The new liberal QAnon right here. Project 2025. Joe Biden tweets, Google Project 2025. Jill Stein responds, Google Free Palestine. Jamie Harrison jumps in to White Knight for his nominee. Google Putin's puppet. Oh my God. Do these people know how pathetic this sounds yet? Obviously not. And Google and Jill Stein did not fucking hesitate. Google Jamie Harrison, Podesta Group lobbyist for Bank of America, Boeing, BP, Lockheed Martin, Walmart, and Wells Fargo. Google Joseph McCarthy is Glenn Greenwald's response. Yeah. So good on Jill for responding. That's something we never saw with Bernie Sanders, did we? He never got that heavy when they came at him with the Russiagate shit. But here's one more for you. So Harrison says, look, ooh, did I hit a sore spot? Fair warning, please understand, I'm not the one. So Google away, but know this. I never dined with the devil and sure as hell never put one in the White House. Wow, this is longer than I thought. Because of your quixotic and narcissistic run in 2016. This is what they do every time. Your actions helped Donald Trump get elected. He was then able to put 3 extreme right-wing justices on the Supreme Court. These justices ended Roe, and Trump is not against it either. But back to this. So Jill says, LOL, talk about hitting a sore spot, Harrison Jamie. I missed the part where you denied shilling for Wall Street and war profiteers. By the way, the Senate Intel Committee investigated me for 3 years and found no links to Putin whatsoever. But she did sit next to him at a table at some dinner or something. So that's what they got her with. Oh, she sat next to Putin at a state dinner back when we universally agreed he was fine. But keep lying to everyone. You are heading to the DNC after all. Jill with the snapbacks. So Jill Stein looking pretty good. Probably gonna pull the lever for Jill Stein. But let's keep going into some local news, and by local I mean American news. All of this is American news. What am I talking about? Let's talk about inflation. This is something I saw recently that hit close to home because back in 2007, 2008, I worked in corporate America. I had 2 tiny children, and I was busting my ass for the man. And one of the things we used to love to do on our breaks is drive across town to Chipotle because it was new at that time and everyone was obsessed with it. And someone posted the prices of a burrito back then. So this is Chipotle 2008. This is what they took from you. I mean, this was 2008, so it's going on 20 years ago. You know, we'll be in 2025, you know, basically 17 years ago. But look at these prices. A chicken burrito, $5.60. A steak burrito, $5.75. Carnitas, $5.60. Like literally $5. All these burritos are $10 plus now. So that's just a good example of how out of hand the inflation has gotten in this country. And just to continue down this road, take a look at this. I thought this was kind of an interesting point this guy made. So he says $5.60 in 2008, full on entree, $5.60 in 2024, bag of chips and guac. Your dollars aren't buying as much as they used to. Remember that the natural state of capitalist society is declining prices. You should be getting more for your money, not less. The government and central bankers are stealing from you through inflation. And to drive this point home, this is a totally unrelated but related rant I found, if you can call it that. This is actually from Instagram. Oh, it's gone. Wow. It wasn't gone yesterday. That is disheartening. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here, I'm going to take a quick break because I really want to show this clip. So let me put on a quick break song for you. And because I have to find this shit. This is just too good. So I'm going to play for you Marjorie Taylor and AOC real quick while I'm digging this clip up, and I'll be right back.
Swear to tell the truth, Marjorie. Oh yeah, AOC, I'm going in.
Fund the police, even though they won't come around. If your neighborhood's predominantly brown, and if you call them, they'll most likely show up and uncategorically shoot at minorities. Despite that shit, we gotta fund. Give corrupt mother lovers more badges and guns. Our police state is too big to fail, so let's fund the prison complex till we all live in jails. Tweeting at me cause I'm in Congress, dropping cash on the military complex, searching my timeline for racism. Cops know that I got mad funding to give them. Say OC and you wanna date me, cause I'm fresh, yo, put you in the friend zone. Criticize me, I will scream violence, then send the cops to your house just to silence you and your family's right to speak. Then I'll give $1 billion to the Capitol Police. I'm in the house, yo, we got the purse strings to fund the police state and do all the worst things. But I'll never do anything out there like vote against war or for universal health care. Fund the police. Fund the police. Yeah, girl. Fund the police. Fund the police. Yeah, fund the police. Fund the police. All right, well, I can't find the clip. Apparently, Instagram removed it, so I should have pulled the clip before this, but if I can, I will find it and edit it back in during post. So I had one more segment I was going to do. We're coming up on a half hour, so I'll probably shorten it a little bit. We're coming up on 2 hours. But what I really wanted to talk about before this assassination attempt happened was when the Joe Biden-Trump debate happened, we kind of, my hat's getting all out of line. When the Joe Biden-Trump debate happened, the press kind of ran with the Biden demented story. And so you didn't really get to hear much of what Trump actually said. So originally my plan was to do a piece covering the missed parts of the debate, the things Trump said that were interesting, because none of that really got picked up thanks to Biden's senility. So I'll just play a couple of these and we'll talk about them. Here's the first clip I wanted to show about Ukraine. Well, let's start with this. Let's start with Afghanistan. So here's what Trump said when they asked him about the
tariff on all goods
Ukraine,
coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And
everything Trump did is the greatest in history.
Jobs went down and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. Now, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing.
Well, they didn't spend money. They upwardly transferred a bunch of money with the CARES Act to wealthy corporations and wealthy people.
And they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And
that's debatable, but it's possible.
As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
In the history of our country's life. That the Afghanistan thing, I think, is kind of pathetic for conservatives to go at Biden for, because we all wanted to be out of Afghanistan, and Trump started the process. Biden just finished it haphazardly. You know, he probably did, but it was a transition, whatever. Like, as long as we're out, who cares about the details of that? That's one of those topics in the current political debate that kind of annoys me. So here's a good one that people missed. Trump talking about mandates
that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, Trump's daddy COVID, he did warp speed and everything. And he did. But listen to what he says here.
With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We're ready.
See, this is the part where they're like, Trump lies. Like, yeah, he hypes himself. He's a hype man for Trump.
Start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country.
So the mandate thing, I think, was the big thing. People forget about that. Trump's clearly not for the mandate. And to me, that's the biggest thing about it. Fine. You want to take the vaccine. You want to do what you want. You know, you're the one that has to suffer the consequences, not me in those situations. So I'll play a couple more of these before we shut off today. Of course, this is one of the best clips of all time.
Here, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
I love how Jake Tapper hurries and shuts him off. He's like, okay, thank you. We can see that you're stuttering, so we're going to go to the other guy now. So there's one point here about where they talk about the abortion thing that I wanted to touch on. But let's play this first.
Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries.
He's right about that. He is not wrong at all. So here's the abortion thing. This was one of my biggest takeaways that that no one really talked much about when they asked Trump about the abortion pill. Listen to this.
Case temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And
there you go. How can the Democrats run scary abortion shit against him now? Did you hear what he just said? Let's hear that one more time.
I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back, religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago.
Now, people will say that claim is a lie. The press will say that that's a lie. But here's a clip of Joe Biden literally saying almost the exact same thing. Listen to this.
Overwhelming universal criticism by proponents of pro-choice and opponents of pro-choice that Roe v. Wade was not a very well-reasoned decision. Most constitutional scholars do not offer that as an example of, whether they're for or against abortion, a decision that is well-written and well-reasoned. Not the conclusion, but the, you know, if it's not offered as a way to write a decision. There is an
There you go.
They started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think.
There you go. I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I didn't see many outlets covering this because they were too busy going, oh, Biden needs to step down. Biden needs to step down. But he does get a little ridiculous here.
It's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected.
See, this is the part of Trump that I kind of like too, the candor here. He's like, you have to get elected. He's like, I have to pander to these people. I have to pretend that I'm like super against abortion. But hey, like I'm kind of not.
The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month.
So this is the part that is not true. No one does that. The only time that happens is if in the cases that he just mentioned, the rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Late term abortion is illegal pretty much countrywide. Now there might be like San Francisco, maybe it's fine where it's like super liberal and they're just like whatever. But there's already too many people in San Francisco anyway. So, you know.
And even after birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the state.
So I don't know how true that is. Sometimes Trump goes on these little sidebars like that about the governor of Virginia. I don't know if anyone in the comments knows that story. Let me know. I'm a little ignorant to that. Maybe he's right about that. But to my understanding, late-term abortion isn't allowed anywhere. It's basically murder. Like once you get to like the middle of the second trimester, or even the beginning of it, it's pretty much nationwide. Like, nah, like you have 6 weeks for the most part. It's even in California, I believe it's like 6 weeks, or you have to have some kind of an exception letter or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I don't claim to be an expert on abortion laws, but this last piece, he talks about Ukraine. And I thought this was also something that was really interesting that the corporate press really didn't put out much.
Go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying
Biden's face during this is so good.
Knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
Personally, I think that's why gunshots happened. that right there, that mentality, that candor, that like, hey, I'm going to end this war. I'll talk to Putin. That was for entertainment purposes only. That's a conspiracy theory. I fully admit that.
People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
So there you have it. Some debate moments that were largely glossed over, and now the news cycle is going to be entirely assassination news, I'm sure. I know that they found the shooter, and I haven't heard much more outside of that. There's a lot of people, oh, it's Antifa, to the left, the far left, yeah. Whatever. I'm sure the guy, again, they've been saying Trump is Hitler and a threat to democracy and all this stuff for years now. It's the constant brainwash cycle. He's a Hitler. He's a threat to democracy, convicted felon, whatever you need. And so, that kind of rhetoric, the Democrats called it stochastic terrorism when Rush Limbaugh and all the crazy right-wingers did it. So now they're doing it because they are the Republicans. The Democratic Party is the neocons. Anyway, we're going to close out on that. And thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you. So much great stuff. I wish I had more time to sit here and talk, but I'll be back soon. Probably next week at the same time. And I do appreciate you like and subscribe and all that shit. If you haven't, I've been kind of stagnant for a minute. Every once in a while I'll have a burst, like I'll have a video that goes a little viral and I'll get a few new subscribers, but then I'll put out like 20 videos and they'll get like 3 views. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I have some thoughts. So just to keep on that theme of the Ukraine war, as we close out here, I'm going to play you one of my favorite pieces of music that I created, which is it's a kind of like a spoken word rap track using Max Blumenthal's UN speech about Ukraine and the sample that Gray Zone uses. So I built this kind of trap beat with the sample from the beginning of Gray Zone's content and then put Max's voice over it. And it just kind of sews all this up together in a nice neat little package. So I hope you enjoyed if you haven't seen it yet. And I got love for y'all. Take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Describing to you, which sees Washington prioritize unrestrained funding for a proxy war with a nuclear power in a foreign land while our domestic infrastructure falls apart before our eyes, exposes a disturbing dynamic at the heart of the Ukraine conflict. An international Ponzi scheme that enables Western elites to seize hard-earned wealth from the hands of average U.S. citizens and funnel it into the coffers of a foreign government. Indeed, military cemeteries in Ukraine are expanding almost as rapidly as the Northern Virginia McMansions and beachfront estates of executives from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and assorted Beltway contractors benefiting from the second highest level of military spending since World War II. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. The Biden administration not only knows that it cannot track the weapons it's shipping to Ukraine, it knows that it is escalating a proxy war against the world's largest nuclear power and daring it to respond in kind. A soldier complained this month to Vice News, "We don't know what Zelensky's plans are, but, quote, it looks like the extermination of its own population, like of the combat-ready and working-age population. That's it." Indeed, military cemeteries in Ukraine are expanding almost as rapidly as the Northern Virginia McMansions and beachfront estates of executives from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and assorted Beltway contractors benefiting from the second highest level of military spending since World War II. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. Senator Lindsey Graham has offered a much more grim and more on-the-mark rationale for supplying Ukraine with billions in weapons. As the senator boasted during a recent visit with Zelensky in Kiev, the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent. And Graham has also said that Americans are ready to fight this war down to the last Ukrainian. So while military-age Ukrainian men are ripped off the streets by military police and sent to the front lines, the financially and politically connected architects of this proxy war are planning to walk through the revolving door to reap unimaginable profits. Military cemeteries in Ukraine are expanding almost as rapidly as the Northern Virginia McMansions and beachfront estates of executives from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and assorted Beltway contractors benefiting from the second highest level of military spending since World War II. These are the real winners winners of the Ukraine proxy war. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war, to reap unimaginable profits once their time in the Biden administration is over. For them, a negotiated settlement to this territorial dispute means an end to the cash cow of close to $150 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war. These are the real winners of the Ukraine proxy war.